Me Alfie again. Pass those out for you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Oldham County Fiscal Court. I'm David Vogel, Judge Executive. Happy to have you here today. I apologize for getting our meeting started a little bit late today. We had a couple of critical phone calls that, of course, came in from Frankfurt at about 7 minutes to 2 that needed to be starting things late is a fact of life. We're trying hard not to make it a way of life here, so I appreciate your indulgence. We're having our final meeting of the year today, and we're also having the final meeting of one of our magistrates, Magistrate Steve Greenwell. I'm happy to announce today that not happy to announce he's leaving, but I'm happy to announce that this is Steve's 524th meeting as a member of the Oldham County Fiscal Court. And in addition to 524 meetings, Steve has perfect attendance in 524 meetings. So, it's hard to know what the long-term records of the court might be, but I doubt that there is probably anyone else. Certainly no one's exceeded that record, and it's very likely that no one else has met that record. So I'd like to begin today's meeting with asking Magistrate Greenwell to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Ms. Tina Schaaf, will you please call the roll?
Magistrate Likens. Magistrate Tice.
Here.
Magistrate Greenwell.
Here.
Magistrate Hounds. Here. Magistrate Hawkins. Here. Magistrate Dye. Magistrate Logston.
Here.
Judge Vogel.
Here.
I'm here as well.
Having all members of fiscal court present, this meeting is now in session. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
Second.
Are there any changes that you'd like to propose?
Addition, Judge, you and I talked about.
Right. We're going to prior to the last public comment, we have a video that we have. It's a news report that was in town that celebrates the 105th birthday of a resident in our community, Horace Herod Sr. So we're happy to be able to play that video today and congratulate Mr. Herod on certainly long and prosperous and successful life. Are there any other members? Anything else? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Now, Ms. Schaaf will read the minutes from our last meeting, which was on December 6th.
The Oldham County Fiscal Court convened at a regular meeting at 2 p.m. with Judge Executive David Vogel, Assistant County Attorney Tate Combs, and the following magistrates in attendance: Brent Likens, Wayne Tice, Steve Greenwell, Chris Hounds, Stephanie Hawkins, Bob Dye, and Michael Logston. Kevin Woosley was not in attendance. The court observed a moment of silence in memory of Mel Milburn. Judge Vogel introduced Jackson Sled, a student from Francis Parker who was shadowing county government staff and operations for the day. Judge Vogel and Magistrate Hounds announced the court's participation in a food drive for those in need during the holiday season. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to approve the agenda as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the meeting minutes from November 15th as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Judge Vogel requested a moment of silence in memory of Dr. Robert Arvin. For public comment, Kevin Jeffries, 1503 East Highway 22 in Crestwood, offered his condolences for the Arvin family. Under County Administration and the payables, motion made by Magistrate Greenwell and seconded by Magistrate Logston to authorize the payment of the payables as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. For surplus property, motion made by Magistrate Greenwell and seconded by Magistrate Logston to approve the surplus property list as presented. Motion carried unanimously. For community business, the second reading and public hearing of the Record Services Ordinance. Magistrate Chris Hounds presented Ordinance KOC 22340-317, establishing regulation of record services within the county, which are provided by Oldham County Fiscal Court to include application, rules, regulations, required equipment, required operational procedures, fees, and penalties. The ordinance was presented with 3 minor changes to include the designation properly zoned when referencing vehicle storage facilities. On page 2, under definitions, vehicle storage facility. On page 3, qualification for placement on the record rotation list. And the third one, page 5, under operational requirements, item number 7. Page 7G, the typo to be corrected to 12-month period. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Tice to adopt Ordinance KOC 22340-317, establishing regulation of record services within the county which are provided by Oldham County Fiscal Court as presented to include the 4 changes as listed. Discussion followed, and the following spoke and asked questions regarding the proposed ordinance. Wayne Kincaid from K&S Automotive, 506 West Jefferson Street in LaGrange, inquired about proposed rate information and what constitutes an unexcused pass causing removal from the rotation list. Don Hedges Excavating, 3201 Highway 146 in LaGrange, stated concerns about his cell phone service while getting a call for service. Magistrate Hounds and Chief Smith responded to questions and concerns. There being no further public comment, the public hearing was closed and motion carried unanimously. Under the contracts and resolutions, the RCS service agreement, motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Likens to approve and authorize the Judge Executive to sign the RCS service agreement as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. And Judge Vogel introduced Bo Glass, the new dispatch director, and Director Glass detailed the required skills to become a 911 dispatcher. Central Square service agreement, motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Dye to approve and authorize the Judge Executive to sign the Central Square service agreement as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Magistrate Hounds and Judge Vogel updated the court on the dead zone cell area at Centerfield Elementary and the countywide broadband initiative. Oldham County Fiscal Court Conference Room audiovisual proposal. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Likens to approve the contract with Crawford Entertainment Systems regarding the conference room audiovisual system upgrade as submitted. Motion carried 7-1. Magistrate Logston voted no. For personnel actions for dispatch, motion made by Magistrate Greenwell and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve Dennis Tegetoff as telecommunicator 2 at $24.50 an hour effective January 1st, 2023, and Amberly Green as a full-time telecommunicator 2 at $24.50 an hour effective December 7th, 2022, and the termination of Megan Engel effective November 18th. Motion carried unanimously. For planning and development services, motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve Brian Fogel as Assistant Director at $58,000 a year, effective 12/12/22. Motion carried unanimously. For Parks and Rec, motion made by Judge Vogel and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to promote Amanda Leach to Community Center Coordinator at $18.24 an hour, effective 12/12/22. Motion carried unanimously. For police, motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Likens to approve Erica Nybert as Administrative Assistant 2 at $19.75 an hour, effective 12/12, and Erin Eden as Administrative 1, $18 an hour, effective 1/9/2023. Motion carried unanimously. Judge Vogel announced the following resignations. Joe Dennis, effective November 18th, Justin Flynn, 12/31, and Jordan Herod, 12/17. For public comment, Jackson Sled, 6106, Miss Flower Circle and Prospect, thanked everyone for the hospitality during his shadowing experience with county government. And John Lackner at 1704 Mahogany Run Drive, LaGrange, suggested using the ARPA funds for pool renovation project. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to adjourn the meeting, and the motion carried unanimously, and the meeting adjourned at 3:40 p.m.
You've heard the reading of our minutes from December 6th. Is there a motion to approve? Are there any corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. One abstention. Motion. Now, we have a second set of readings to go through it. They're not as long, but we had a special meeting on December 8th. That was 2 days later. And we'll ask Ms. Schaaf to read the minutes from that meeting.
The Oldham County Fiscal Court convened at a special meeting at 11 a.m. with Judge Vogel, County Attorney John Carter, and the following magistrates in attendance: Brent Likens, Wayne Tice, Kevin Woosley, Steve Greenwell, Chris Hounds, Stephanie Hawkins, Bob Dye, and Michael Logston. The agenda for the special meeting was presented. For public comment, there was none. In community business, the Animal Control Services Building. John Stewart, president and owner of Encompass Develop, Design, and Construct, presented the cost and information package for the proposed facility and responded to questions from the court. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to move forward on the new Animal Control Services Building for $6.12 million as presented. Motion carried 6-3 on a roll call vote. Magistrates Tice, Greenwell, and Hawkins voted no. For the pool renovation, Charlie Snyder, professional engineer from Brandsitter Carroll, presented information on the pool renovation project and responded to questions from the court. Motion made by Magistrate Tice and seconded by Magistrate Hawkins to proceed with the renovation of the pool as presented for $3,792,607. Discussion followed. Motion carried 8-1 on a roll call vote. Magistrate Dye voted no. For contracts and resolutions, the Wrecker Services Fee Resolution, motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to approve Resolution 0112-0822, authorizing the towing fees as required by Ordinance KOC 22340-317 to include clarification regarding the off-hours pickup, to read off-hours customer pickup. Motion carried unanimously. For a public comment, Chris Korzanowski, 2909 Kinlock Road in Crestwood, as the Oldham County High School swim coach, suggested more be done for the pool renovation as the community needs a pool year-round. And Marcia Elder, 3612 New Moody Lane, LaGrange, thanked the court for approving the new animal control building and recommended researching a program that would assist those who must surrender their pet for medical reasons. Also requested the court look at the cost of having the pool open the whole year. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously, and the meeting adjourned at 12:54 p.m.
You heard the reading of our minutes from December 8th. Is there a motion to approve? Are there any corrections?
Judge,
Yes, ma'am.
Charlie Schneider. Schneider is Schneider.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Hearing nothing, all in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Time now for public comment. That's the time during our meeting when anyone from the community would like to address the fiscal court on an issue of community-wide interest or a personal appeal to the court for something is able to do so. We allow up to 4 minutes. And we have with us Becky Zocklein. Go ahead, Becky.
Judge, I'd like to remind everybody that the recycling center will be accepting live Christmas trees. That is no artificial, no Christmas trees with root balls. So cut Christmas trees after their use, beginning Christmas Day through the end of January. And we're asking that they be dropped off in the gravel lot above the football field, which is just on the other side of the recycling center itself. I have a map, Tina, if you could turn on the...
I think there's, push the button that says push there. They told me not.
Okay,
Don't touch it.
push here. Oh, maybe.
Takes a second.
All right.
Becky, will you have this information on your Facebook page?
So here's 393. Here's the recycling center here. This is traditionally where people have dropped off in this lower parking lot, but while school is in session, that's filled with cars. So we're asking that people drop off their trees in this lot up here, and the road department will come and shred the trees and turn them into mulch, and the mulch will be used on county grounds.
Right, in the parking lot between the community center and the recycling center, basically opposite the youth football stadium.
Yes. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Not quite time to drop trees off yet, but it will be soon.
Christmas Day.
Thank you. All right.
Got mine up.
Got yours up, right. I didn't mention earlier, I do want to welcome the members of Magistrate Greenwell's family who've come here today, his sons and their wives and other relatives, friends, and neighbors. We're very happy to have you here today to, I guess, celebrate, observe, commemorate, whatever the word is that goes with the last day. One wife, right. That's right. I didn't. I meant the son. This is not. All right. Next public comment here. Okay.
I'm not talking.
Judge, good afternoon. Obviously, I'm not here to talk about the jail.
This is Mike Simpson.
Mike Simpson, yes.
Jailer.
But I wanted to come today and just congratulate Steve for his years of service, what he's done for this county. Steve and I, we first met, we were freshmen at junior high school, but we also went to the Oldham County High School. You have to say it that way because it's not north, it's not south. And if you look across the here with all the magistrates, the majority of the people, the magistrates, went to the Oldham County High School. And back in the day, and Steve, I will say this, we moved into your district in 2004. So for the last 18 years, Judge, he has been my magistrate over there in the Ballardsville area. And I see Kevin's here, so he's getting ready to pick that ball up and run with it. And with that coined phrase, back in the day, it was just that timing. We all had nicknames. And I don't know if anybody has ever heard Steve's nickname. Have you shared that with anyone, Steve?
I have not.
Are you? Okay. So back in the day, again, we all had nicknames, did we not, Wayne?
Yeah.
Did we have nicknames back in the day? Magistrate Greenwell's nickname, because of what he could do in football, his nickname was, you okay with this? Snake. His name was Snake because he could slither. He had the ability to outrun or maneuver, get through an opening in the football line. He had that ability to do it. And we graduated. We went through high school together. Graduated in 1971. Back in the day, we have a 1970 graduate, 1965, 1966. Kevin, I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly. Mike, I don't remember exactly when you guys. I know, but
I was born in 71, Mike.
he was born in 71. But yeah, Steve has done a tremendous job, and I'm sure Kevin is going to be able to do the exact same thing. I'm sure Steve, I'm sure he's got you on speed dial. Kevin's probably got you on speed dial. So if he needs anything, he's going to give you a call. I'm actually still on speed dial also with a few people that I've worked with for all of my career, and they don't hesitate, and I'm sure Kevin won't hesitate to call you. And another fellow graduate. Oh, one other thing, I forgot to tell you this one. Steve grew up in LaGrange. He did all the way through the 8th grade at IC.
School in LaGrange.
He went to school in LaGrange. Yes. I grew up in Crestwood, and I've said this before, and she's actually sitting here right now. And I've told Steve jokingly, this is a joke. Actually, I've known his wife longer than he has. Because we grew up in Crestwood. We went to Crestwood Elementary back in the day, and we did grow up together, went to school together. And so that's just another thing. And again, I just wanted to congratulate Steve for his years of service, Judge. And I appreciate the time. And Thank you very much,
All
sir.
right, Mike. Karen, did Mike or Simpson have a name in high school? All right, you probably yeah.
Semi.
Uh,
Semi.
Semi name. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. All right.
My whole family just walked in too.
Well, welcome. Happy to have them here today on the last day. We're glad for everybody's here. Are there any more issues or anyone else who would like to address public comment here at this point in the meeting? All right, thank you. I'll close the public comment. I do want to mention too that a couple other things before we proceed. This is also John Carter's last day as advisor to the fiscal court during a court meeting. It's not his last day as county attorney. We got another 10 days or whatever to go through to get to that. But John is retiring as county attorney after 12 years. And so, John, we thank you very much for your service to the fiscal court. Another person I'd like to recognize here is back here this little bit, Kevin Jeffries. Kevin received and circulated to all the magistrates here Kevin's retirement as the chairman of the Planning Commission. I'm embarrassed to say, Kevin, I don't know how many years it's been, but I know it's been as long as I've been county judge and probably twice as long. How long has it been?
26.
26 years as chairman of the Planning Commission. 15. All right. Well, I knew you were chairman when I got here, and you've done an excellent job with the Planning Commission, being the leader of the Planning Commission, and you've had many difficult decisions to adjudicate as our county has progressed over the last 26 years. And so thank you very much for that and recognize you. And Kevin is not leaving county government services. He's actually going to replace Steve next month as 4th District Magistrate. And I think the 4th District has made a very, very wise decision selecting you to continue on in Steve's position. So, and I also want to mention that and one more thing about Kevin, besides being chairman of the Planning Commission, he's also been a member and chairman of the Oldham County Soil and Conservation District. The people that actually have been concerned about the conservation and soil in our district. When this group I've been there a few times over the years to swear new members into that board. They meet at 6:30 in the morning, so you got to get up pretty early to be interested in soil and conservation. But Kevin's a farmer, and others are in agriculture have been on that. So thank you for your leadership there as well. There are many jobs in our community that go filled, but are sort of unnoticed by the community unless you're directly associated or interested in that subject matter. And there are people that are taking care of lots of different aspects of our community, and Kevin Jeffries has been one of them. So thank you very much, Kevin. All right. Right, we'll go on now with the balance of our meeting, and I'm happy to welcome another person who has done a yeoman's job over an extended period of time. And we have had our Oldham County Environmental District has been chaired by Horace Herod. I can't tell you how many hundreds of hours Horace Herod has spent working on environment, trying to run our sewer district that started from scratch and went forward. And as we've had about 20 or 25 years of it now, and Horace has been there most of the time. He's certainly been chairman for at least the last 12 years. And that's another job that didn't pay anything. It took a lot of time, a lot of thought, a lot of effort. And our community owes Horace Herod a tremendous debt for the leadership that he has displayed in the environmental district. So Horrid, thank you very much. I don't know if this will be your last time before fiscal court. You probably hope it will be, but it might not be. But thank you for everything you have done as well.
It takes a village, and had a lot of help along the way, including fiscal court members enduring some of those rate increases that nobody likes to deal with. But we're kind of winding things down. I promised I would come back. I didn't know it was going to be a class of 71 reunion. And Steve and Mike and I were all part of that class, and I think that's about 10% of us probably. It wasn't a very big I did promise I'd come back in December and kind of do a final report on Oldham County Environmental Authority. We continue to make some headway on getting some errors wrapped up there. So I'm not going to dwell a lot on this slide, but many of you are familiar with the history and significant events that sort of
Your mic over just a little bit. There you go. Yeah, right there.
That spawned what then was the Oldham County Sewer District. Was created in 1996, primarily as a result of the Clean Water Act that was back in the 80s, I believe, actually, or at least it was amended in the 80s. And the purpose was to clean up discharges in the streams and lakes in Oldham County. And so it's a very noble thing to do. We had come through a big growth period in the county, a lot of subdivisions, some high density subdivisions where septic systems weren't available or appropriate. And so sewers came into being. Unfortunately, the developers created and built and operated these systems, and not very well in most cases. These were probably 20 years old when we came into being in 1996, and the county decided it was time to acquire these package treatment plants and try to improve on the water quality of the county. Very noble venture. The tactics and strategies weren't carried out too well because, as it turns out, we acquired, or the district acquired, these assets that turned out to be liabilities. And not only that, but they borrowed money to acquire these assets. So as soon as the district acquired them, the state started putting pressure on the county to decommission those plants because they were difficult to keep in compliance. We were having 400 to 500 violations a year in about 14 or 15 different package treatment plants, which was unacceptable. And the whole mission of the district was to improve that. So you sort of fast forward a few years, and we began to regionalize and started out with the building of the Ohio River Treatment Facility, which was the first regional facility. We were able to decommission 2 or 3 plants that went into that facility, executed a long-term lease with KSR, upgraded that facility on prison property to try to take advantage of additional decommissioning of plants and regionalizing there, and then ultimately built SORF, South Oldham Regional Facility, down along I-71. With the building of SORF, we were able to pretty much take offline all the troubled treatment plants and bring the system into compliance. And shortly after SORF was built, that 500 per year violations was down to maybe a handful a year. So it eventually worked out. But we were pretty highly leveraged. We had to raise rates to pay those debts to build those regional facilities, and fiscal court had to approve those rates. And so then comes some discussions we had with MSD, and we were able to negotiate a sale of the assets to MSD and basically get us out of the sewer business, which I think was a good thing for everybody concerned. Hopefully it will stabilize rates for ratepayers and be better long term. I won't dwell any more on this slide, but The remaining affairs of OSEA is essentially the transition of the Harmony Lake and Dam back to the county. That's, other than the cash that's on our balance sheet, that's substantially the only other asset that OSEA currently owns. We entered into a corrective action plan with the state to mitigate the high hazard status of the Harmony Dam. We've talked about that before. I think everybody knows what went on there. And as part of that cap, we had short-term or operating types of ongoing tasks that we had to continue to do, which consists of mowing, keeping the dam mowed and the debris cleared off the spillway and that sort of thing. These tasks will continue with the transition of the lake and dam to the county. However, they're fairly minimal cost other than mowing that are involved in these particular tasks. We estimated mowing was going to be about $15,000 to $17,000 a year. Perhaps you could reduce that with some county assets, but that's for this court to decide. There were short-term tasks which involved filling depressions on the dam and doing some reseeding of some areas of the spillway that had some erosion. Removing some trees from the principal spillway, clearing debris, and then most significantly, the purchase of 3 downstream residences from the dam that were really the reason for the high hazard classification that the state had for the dam. And then placing downstream an inundation zone overlay that prohibits any additional building that would go on downstream. So those are short-term tasks. All of these have been done at this point. We just point out that well, I'll cover those on the next couple of slides here. Medium-term tasks. After purchasing the homes, we had to remove them and get those back to pretty much original grade there, and then clear all trees within 25 feet of the downstream toe of the dam and keep that area tree free. And then lastly, the long-term tasks include repairing or reconstructing the principal spillway there and discharge channel, and then constructing a new drawdown system, which we believe can be done with a simple siphon system. We don't think that will involve a lot of money. All the tasks that you see in the short and medium term have been completed. Those homes have been removed. 2 of the 3 lots have been sold to adjoining landowners. The third is will be completed. We'll close on that before the end of the year. And in those deeds of transfer, there are restrictive covenants that prevent any type of improvements ever going on those 3 lots. So they can't even do a driveway, swing set, anything. There's no building to be done on those 3 lots. And those homeowners understand that. And then as far as the rest of the inundation zone that's downstream from those 3 lots, I've worked with Jim Urban to put an overlay in the system that notes that this is a no-build zone. Now, keep in mind this is an almost vertical piece of property that goes down the channel there, so it's really not buildable, any of that. But there will be a notice within the county overlay system if anyone should ever come in and look to build, that would immediately pop up. So I'll defer to Jim on any questions there, but that's how we've chosen to mitigate the risk of additional building. Because if there were to be any additional building downstream within this inundation zone, you'd be right back in the high hazard status of the dam. So what's the remaining unfinished business? We need to complete the Harmony Dam cap long-term task by the end of 2004. And again, so we've got a little bit of time there, but that primarily involves the repair and reconstruction of the spillway. I will just make a non-engineering opinion on that. Since by definition the lake and dam or the dam is no longer high hazard, I don't deem this to be a critical thing. Are we obligated to do it with the state? Yes, it's part of our cap, but certainly we expect the high hazard status to be downgraded by the state. So they certainly won't have the big stick to use on us going forward. Additionally, I think there are options for this repair reconstruction of the spillway. I think it could be done without a complete tearing out and renovation of it. I think there could be some rock weirs put in, perhaps, that would suffice. Also, keep in mind the spillway, it's a concrete spillway. There's rarely any water that goes over the spillway. The water escapes around the dam. We're not sure exactly whether it's sinkholes or what. We think there's sinkholes in the lake itself, but it's very rare to see, even on a high rain event, water going over the spillway. Does it happen? Yes, it does on occasion, but it takes quite a rain to do that. So I don't think the spillway channel is a significant issue for us. We need to perform all the routine maintenance tasks. We talked about the mowing and keeping the trees removed and cleared within 25 feet of the toe. Occasionally, you'll get some burrowing animals that will choose to dig into the dam, and that needs to be monitored. And then the flow across the spillway also needs to be monitored just to make sure there's no erosion or anything downstream there. We do have one holdback payment to Basham. That was the contractor that did the work on demolishing the homes and doing the repair work or the renovation work on the dam itself, which we're holding back for about $11,000. That will remain until they remove basically some sandbags that are still until we get grass grown in and so forth below the dam. So, but they are obligated to remove those. They also had to repair a light pole that was damaged during the process, and my understanding is that's been completed as well. Remaining contingent liabilities, really there's only one. OSEA was involved in a complaint against us from 2015 for some damage to a basement from a flooding event. We did have an issue at a lift station at that time, and there were two other homes that were involved. We resolved that for those homeowners. We don't believe we were liable for this third one. He was significantly uphill from this event, and there were homes in between that were not affected. So we kind of questioned the validity of the event. We never got any pictures that showed the damage. He did the cleanup without contacting us, didn't contact us for 2 or 3 weeks afterwards. And then after everything was done, essentially I reached out and said, "You owe me $40,000. So this has been sitting on a judge's desk for 4 or 5 years, 5 or 6 years. We don't think it's going anywhere. But in the event there was an adverse ruling, which we don't expect, KCO, our insurer, and I've provided some documentation in the exhibits, has indicated they would cover us on those lawsuits. So we don't think there's any financial liability to this suit, but it's a suit that's still out there. Our recommendation to fiscal court, OSEA's board met last week and resolved to terminate the agency effective March 31st of 2023, and that all remaining assets, including cash, bank accounts, and Harmony Lake and Dam property, be transferred to Oldham County once all the accounts payable have been taken care of. This should give you 90 days to do the public announcements and hearings if you need to do that to conclude termination of the agency. So in the in the packets, I don't think they're included on this presentation, but there are some correspondence letters that are just for your reference. The CAECO letter indicating their intention to cover liability on the Wells case. There is a letter where the state agreed to terminate and indicated all conditions have been resolved under the former agreed order that we were under. So you have that documentation. And then lastly, there's our balance sheet in there that shows we currently have about $200,000 in cash on the balance sheet today. We feel like that will be more than adequate to cover the siphon system and some fairly significant portion of whatever work needs to be done on that spillway. So that concludes my remarks, and I'd be happy to take questions.
All right. Thank you, Horace. So the long and short of it is the environmental district plans to go out of business on March 31st, and the assets will be transferred assets and responsibility for future maintenance here will be transferred to Oldham County Fiscal Court. And it would be my recommendation to the magistrates that responsibility be placed with our engineering department. Magistrate Hawkins.
The letter indicates all assets. Is the only asset the cash, or are there other physical assets?
Lake and dam is real estate that would be transferred, but substantially it's just cash and the lake and the dam.
Magistrate Woosley.
Harry, we certainly appreciate your leadership down there. My question is probably geared more for you, Judge. What does the termination of the agency look like for fiscal court? What steps will we have to go through to make sure that they're terminated and cleared and their directors are clear of any responsibility there?
Well, go ahead if you know.
You may know more than me, probably do, but my understanding is that the fiscal court would have to take action to approve termination of the agency. There would have to be a notice put out and then a public hearing to get public comment before the final termination can occur.
Right. We'll have a couple of steps to go through before the 31st of March, but effectively there's really nothing we can do. I mean, we can't make these people continue to be. So someone has to agree to step up and do this. The other option here would be the stormwater district. I'm not sure the stormwater district is actually, they don't have personnel. We have the engineering personnel to stay on top of this and the resources to do it, where the stormwater district doesn't. Anyone else? Likens.
I've been on the OCA board for a couple of years, and I want to thank Stan Clark because he led us through all the financial part of this whole process.
Right. We thank Stan as well, and
Highly paid. Highly paid.
Highly paid. He was highly paid. Right. He's there. So, okay. Well, Horace, again, invite you to stay because we do have that video of your father here at the end of the meeting. Maybe you've seen it already, but thank you a lot with you and Mr. Jeffries and Magistrate Greenwell. Thank you is really not sufficient for what you've done. It can't quite reach the peak to have the thank you equal the efforts that you have made and the others have made to keep our county moving forward. So,
service, we're glad to do it. So
that's our spirit of Oldham County, and we'll be recognizing you again in the future. So, thank you very much. We'll move on now with the next item on our agenda is the coming budget for the Oldham County Clerk. The clerk's budget operates on a calendar rather than fiscal year basis, and we're happy to have our new Oldham County Clerk, Amy Elby, here today. Welcome, Amy.
Judge. Tina, magistrates. So I met earlier today with the Finance Committee for the 2023 Oldham County Clerk's budget. We discussed that, and then I've also passed out the summary sheets on there. So you have your first one, your first page. Let's see, the third from the left is the 2023 budget. Basically, it goes through and outlines all of the expenses, shows that the gross income, anticipated income that the clerk will collect will be $28,976,100. The mandatory distributions, which those are all the distributions to the other taxing agencies that we collect, was $25,419,650, which leaves a gross income of $3,556,450. And then when you take in the clerk expenses, which includes personnel, the employee benefits, our contracted services for like all of our software maintenance, things of that nature, other supplies like our office supplies, postage, capital outlay, that's approximately $2.7 million, which gives an estimated excess fee that will be turned back over to fiscal court at the end of the calendar year, my fiscal year, of $803,216. The second page is just basically a breakdown that shows what the projected income is from all the different tax categories, and then what the mandatory distributions are, to state, county government, the school districts, all the fire districts, health department, library, those, and then payments to the county attorney and the sheriff for helping collect any delinquent taxes as well. And then finally, the third page is a list of all of the current employees. We do have two open positions. Well, we have one open position. I just hired someone for the one open position. So we still do have an open position. So anyone that's interested for working at the Oldham County Clerk's LaGrange office, please call me. And then it goes through and it breaks down what their annual salary is, and then the retirement expense, Social Security match, as well as any benefit cost to my office for health, dental, and life insurance. And then the final page is the basically the executive order that fiscal court has to set a maximum annual fee office. Official deputies and assistants, setting the maximum amount that I can spend for salaries, vacation, sick time, holiday, any PTO time, as well as health insurance, Social Security and retirement, and holiday leave. So that total for the deputies and assistants is $1,450,364 for 2023.
All right, thank you, Amy. I might ask you on the salary cap for the deputies and so forth. Is that reflected somewhere on the first page?
You would need to add in the 2023 under 2023 budget. You would take the deputy salaries, which is $900,071.233. You would add that plus the total employee benefits, which is $479,131.
Okay.
It does not include my salary, which is set by the state.
Right, your salary is set by the Constitution. Are there any questions here, Magistrate Hounds?
This was taken before the Finance Committee today, and it did come out of Finance Committee, both the budget and the standing order.
All right. So the Finance Committee recommends that we accept this. For a second? All right, thank you. Magistrate Hawkins.
Amy, over here and it says something about the cash and the checks. Will your office continue to take cash and checks? Okay.
And I am working with another credit card company to try and get our fees down to a lower processing rate, if any processing rate at all. So hopefully that'll be a cost savings as well.
Any other questions from the court? We have a motion and a second. No further questions. All in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Metro Lycan stepped out. I wanted to make sure that was.
All right. But that vote was 8-0. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't see him step out, so thank you for letting me know. We're going to move on now. The next item is under county administration. Every 2 weeks we pay bills, and now we're going to pay the bills to the end of the year, I believe. And when you're ready, Melissa, do you have anything to say about the bills or payables today? All right. Have a motion and a second to pay our 2-week bills here. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Now we have budget transfers. Our treasurer, Melissa Horn, will explain what budget transfers are and why we have them on occasion.
Judge, at the end of November, I'm requesting budget transfer, line item transfers of $74,063.52. Budget transfers are necessary to cover lines that have a deficit balance. So we take money from lines that are in a positive and we transfer them to cover the deficits.
Right. A budget is not a straitjacket. It's a sort of a guidepost, a path to run on during the year. But occasionally, something causes us to go outside the planned path by a little bit, and so we get back in by taking money from one line item that hasn't been overspent to date to put it in another that has been. So, and that added, what'd you say, that added up to 70-some thousand, or
$74,063.52.
not a lot in our $50 million budget. Okay. Measure Greenwell.
Judge, I'll make a motion. We approve the budget transfers.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Thank you. Next item is we have some titles to relinquish. Melissa, if you want to do that, please.
Asking the court to relinquish titles to 2 Harley-Davidson motorcycles. One is a 2018, one is a 2015. These motorcycles were purchased by sheriff deputies and loaned to fiscal court for our use. And these deputies are both retiring or leaving the sheriff's office and have asked to get the titles back to their motorcycles.
Right. So the motorcycles are going back to the deputies and not going to stay with us. They're both pretty nice looking motorcycles here.
I'll admit these are stock photos. These are not photos.
Stock photos. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm sure they're still good shape. Is there a motion? Second. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Do you have a question on that?
Are all of the lights and everything that the sheriff's vehicles would need all removed?
Part of the motorcycles.
Okay, so they're just staying with the motorcycles as they go back to the.
Are what is known as police bikes.
Highway patrol.
So that they come outfitted, if that's the correct word, with all their lights.
And they're allowed to stay on as they use these as their personal vehicle.
They're not allowed to use them for personal use. So the deputies will be selling these bikes, is my understanding, yes.
Right, and we do thank Maury Brill and Keith Griesheiber for getting these bikes and letting the sheriff's department use them. They've been mostly parade vehicles. They don't really get used as law enforcement vehicles. They show up at ceremonies where they've been using them. So we had a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Motion carries 9-0. Thank you. Now, the next item on the agenda is the CDBG Coronavirus Utility Assistance Project. We have a public hearing involved here, and Dustin Duncan from KIPTA is here today to review this with the court. Because this is a public hearing, later, we'll have an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor or in opposition of how these funds have been used will be able to do so. So, Duncan, welcome to Fiscal Court.
Thank you, magistrates, as well. I'm a little tall, sorry about that. So the scope of this project was to provide utility assistance to county residents in arrears due to COVID-19. It was a supplemental CDBG pool of funds carried down through coronavirus funding. And this hearing is the last requirement of closing that grant out. A lot of communities who received these funds ended up not using them because there are some other opportunities like LIHEAP. So these were sort of just supplemental that weren't necessary. Oldham County's original award was $200,000, and funds were to be managed by the Tri-County Community Action Agency. To date, 0 have been expended, so really not much has happened. The project period is from August 31st, 2021 till the end of this month. So we are nearing the end, and the state has decided to just sort of close these out. There's no action required at this time by the court. We just, like the judge said, like to give opportunity for public comment as part of the closeout process.
Right. So we really, the money, the 200 and some thousand, went to Tri-County Community Action Agency. That's a 3-county agency that deals with low-income individuals on a variety of federally funded programs. But apparently we had, this was money for Oldham County versus Henry or Trimble, that are the other members of Tri-County Community Action Agency. But apparently had no applicants for the funds. Is that correct? Right. So what will happen to these funds now? Where do they go?
They go back to the state, and then they'll decide what to do with them. They might add them to their CDBG allocations that exist.
All right. Right. CDBG means Community Development Block Grant. Right. And the program that was used at one point to help build our community, Dwayne Murner Senior Center. So, right. Is there anybody here, and I doubt there is anybody that wants to speak to this closing of this grant program? All right, we'll end the public hearing with that then. So, Duncan, thank you very much for coming out here and giving us an update. Any court members? Question, Magistrate Woosley?
It's open to the end of the month. Can people still apply if they need this? And if so, what are the steps for that to happen?
So according to what the state told us, they're no longer dispersing funds. They're just going to wrap it up. However, if you contact the Tri-County Community Action Agency, they have additional resources such as LIHEAP that could help people out.
I believe, yeah, LIHEAP is a low-income, energy, energy and something. We have these different programs, and I believe when this funding came, there was just a deluge of other funding coming from all over the place. So Tri-County wound up with more money than they could actually use and distribute during that period of time. So that's one reason these funds weren't used, because other funds were accessed to help people who needed help at that point. But and as it is, Tri-County, I believe Magistrate Tice is on that board with me. Correct me if I'm wrong, Wayne, but I believe Tri-County is ending up with the largest amount on its balance sheet it's ever had, just because of all the different funding sources that arrived in the last 18 months.
Yeah, a lot of new funds have come in that we were able to have and didn't have a need for, so that's, our balance sheet is real strong there.
Right. A lot of money was printed, and it's out there yet, so we can't even use it all. So, okay, thank you very much for coming out today. We appreciate you being here. All right. Now we're going to, the next item is I'm going to invite John Stewart and Josh. Okay, John Stewart, Josh Gadney from Compass Architects, Encompass Architects here in LaGrange, to help to discuss a project that we've had underway for, I'm not exactly sure how long we've been doing this, a couple of years it seems like, but we, at one time in our building next door, the former an historic Methodist church building that's been there since 1880, I believe, thereabouts, maybe 1882. At one time, the church moved out. The county bought the building because it's between the fiscal court and the um, property valuation administrator. It seemed like something that the fiscal court should maintain. The court at that time thought it should. And we had our Oldham County Jail across the street, and the building was used as offices for the jail. When we built our new detention center on Highway 146 down near Kentucky State Reformatory, the offices of the jail were sufficient to be able to move to that building. We didn't have any space for the jail across the street, really, for offices. But now we have offices in the new detention center. Following that move, Larry Chandler and some inmates from KSR came and helped us basically take all of the space, all of the temporary or offices out of that building. They weren't really expensive offices. It was put them up as with the lowest cost possible. And now the building is empty inside. It's a hollow shell, and you see the windows and the structure from the outside, but on the inside, there's been nothing. It's been used in the last 2 years as a space for voting, but we've had another plan here to actually have a fiscal court and community reception center there. Could be used for events downtown, could be used for fiscal court events. We have nothing in this building that would accommodate 50 people coming to a sit-down meeting. That space can be handled there. So we've asked a couple of years ago, and I don't know when we started, it's been about 2 or 2.5 years ago, asking Compass to start working with us. We've added a small addition to that building to house chairs, tables, other things that need to be in the closet when you're not having something out. We also have a small space that's been built in that additional building for internet access for internet providers to be able to have some of their equipment and some of our fiscal court equipment in that building. So with that, Josh, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but I wanted to give a little background as to how we got to the point of what you're going to present today, to what we can do to step forward and upgrade the interior of this building to something that is going to be a usable space. So please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you. My name is Joshua Gedney. I'm a registered architect. I work with
You have to project because our mic is not that strong there. So.
Compass Design Develop here in town. As the judge said, we've been working on this building for several years. At this point, what was the sanctuary is the last component of the building that needs to be renovated. It's currently an empty shell, primarily without finishes or with mixed condition finishes. So at the Judge Executive's behest, we have been working with Lori Lee Hall, an architect out of Crestwood, Kentucky, on the interior design and looking at how to renovate and improve the condition of the interior in a way that would be attractive for a long time. And we have a couple of renderings that are in your packet, but are also here on the screen of the direction that the design is going in. It's to bring it back to a traditional finish in keeping with the building and its character that would be attractive for training meetings, community functions, etc. And we're going to use a mixture of carpet and luxury vinyl tile, some surfaces that'll work well for the intended function and provide some acoustic separation. We will be preserving and protecting the stained glass windows as well as the existing mural. I believe that the judge has talked about providing the ability to cover the mural for functions at time. And we have one more picture here, I believe. Excuse me. We've chosen to show the building as if it were set up for a dining function. I believe that one of the potential uses for this event space would be to provide rentals for the community at times when the fiscal court does not have a function that's going to be used, so that someone could rent it for a wedding dinner, rehearsal dinner, things of that nature. And so we've chosen to show it in that light. The budget is on the first page of the packet, and I'll switch back up to that now. This is a conservative all-in budget that also includes things that are outside the scope of the traditional construction, such as furniture, fixtures, and equipment, things that the fiscal court may or may not decide to do, such as purchasing new tables and chairs. But the primary focus of the renovation is minor improvements to the HVAC system. There are some structural issues in part of the floor in the root cellar area that need to be improved, so that is captured. We'll be repairing a couple of beams and lowering some of the floor joists to make it a flush surface that'll be ADA compliant, and then the rest of it is improvements to the space aesthetically and redoing the finishes. We'll be improving the lighting in the space, as well as providing some accent lighting for the existing stained glass windows, so that at night there'll be a nice glow that can be set to show to the community.
All right. So, Manager Likens, Building Committee have a recommendation on this.
Yes, we voted today to bring this forward to the Oldham County Fiscal Court for a vote. And I'd like to make the motion that we approve a budget of $554,000. What's the final number there? $553,957 for this project.
All right. Your second.
53 or 5? 553. Okay.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion here? Rashford Hounds.
Judge, I when I look at this project, I understand we need the meeting space, but who's going to manage the space for fiscal court going forward?
What was that question again? Who's going to manage the space?
Yes, sir.
Could be a combination of my office, maintenance, possibly parks. I don't think it's going to be that hard to manage. It's going to be right next door.
Oh, but you could have a group in there today that is set up for the tables and chairs like he's shown in the pictures, but then the next event could be something else. There's going to be additional work on somebody's behalf in order to do the refresh or the turnover. I don't know what the correct term is to use, to change it from tables and chairs to just chairs or whatever. Staging. Thank you very much. And I guess too, I don't know what else we would use the space for, and this is not my wheelhouse, but it just seems like that we jumped into this is the use for the space, and I'm not sure that that's the highest and best use for the building.
Well, we've been talking about this for the better part of 2, possibly 3 years. Do you have another idea?
Again, it's not my wheelhouse, Judge.
I mean, negatives,
I'm not being negative. I
think it is when you say we might have a better use, but you don't know what it is. What is that? That's not a positive comment. Is it? Really? We've been talking about this from the beginning, doing this, and I think we need this. We have these people sitting here today, and we're going to have a little we're going to have a little reception after the end of this meeting, which will be in the conference room and in the hall. But we can't call a meeting here for 50 people to come to fiscal court outside of this room. And this room is not conducive to a lot of circumstances that you might want to have in a group meeting. And we do have people using our community center. We have that back up on the duplicate. And I'm not trying to be argumentative in any way. I think that's what we thought all along is what this space would be used for. That's why we upgraded the restroom facilities there, last year. And so I really don't know how to counter what you're saying. I'm not trying to counter. I'm just saying if there's a better idea for what that could be used for, I'm not sure what it is. And Magistrate Greenwell.
Judge, I have a lot of problems with this project. First of all, nobody on this court voted to buy that building that I know of. Secondly, we have an event center. Yes, it's at the center of the county, and that's why we put it there. And then thirdly, there's two other event centers that I can throw a rock to from here, and we would just be competing with them. And I believe government is supposed to do things that nobody else can do, like pave roads and provide police protection. I don't believe we should be I don't believe we should be competing against local businesses.
Okay, well, I don't see this as a competitive. Do you think our community center is a competitive spot against local businesses?
Where it's at, not with the city of LaGrange, no. But I mean, we have that down there, and it's not fully rented by any stretch of the imagination. And so I don't feel like we're hurting the other businesses. And secondly, if we want to have a training meeting or something that requires that kind of space, that's kind of why the other court built that 25 years ago.
Well, it's not next door. It's down the road, and none of us bought the building. A previous group of people in our stead thought it was a good investment. Okay, we have it sitting there. I think we've paid to fix up the windows there. We have invested money in that building but just to invest in a empty building, it doesn't seem to make sense either. I mean, we're not going to sell it. I don't think we're going to sell it, and certainly have no interest in taking it down. It's a historic building in our community. I think it could be used for. It would open up a lot of opportunities for us to do things here that we avoid now because of the inconvenience of not having a location close by to do them in. I would say. And I think Magistrate Tice.
Got a couple of questions. The carpet around the perimeter, why is there carpet? Why doesn't the wood go all the way to the baseboard?
Yeah, the shape and the volume of the space, if all of the surfaces are hard, the acoustics and the echoes in the room will be very uncomfortable for speaking and things of that nature. So by putting a border around the room of carpet and a couple of other treatment things we're doing in the space, it's to bring down the acoustical echo of the room.
The ceiling work in that part seems to have, and I'm not an architect, so correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to have somewhat of a modernistic appearance or feel, where the exterior of the building is not contemporary at all. It's more of a traditional, or you can put the correct name on it. And why did you look at it in that? Why did you look at that versus more of a traditional, standard type of what would fit the outside? What I'm thinking is what would fit the outside a little.
So our interior design consultant, Lori Lee Hall, has been working with the judge executive and ourselves to come up with an aesthetic that didn't feel too dated. We weren't trying to restore it as a church per se, but had some traditional character. So the beams that you see in the image, the renderings, those don't exist now. Those are there to pick up some of the structural lines and the lines of the existing piers and bays that are in the space. So that's what was taken into account as opposed to trying to truly restore it to look like it did, when it was a Methodist church. Sir?
Yeah, it does. I'm just not, in my thinking, it wouldn't have to look exactly like, but more of a consistent outside architecture, inside architecture. And the judge had taken us to one in Frankfurt several years ago. We'd stopped by there after meeting, you see, and when you went inside, it blended outside inside. So that's just somewhat of a negative statement, but it's just a thought that I have.
And, to be honest, when Encompass did our initial renderings, we were much more modern. And so this is much more traditional than the direction we were going in. And that church facility that you mentioned was the one that Lori Lee Hall looked at with the judge as well, because they liked that facility. And some of the shapes and elements were modeled on that, although not copied from it, obviously.
I didn't hear the last sentence.
Yes, sir. That facility was used in part as inspiration for this piece, but not obviously it's not copied in total in its character, but some of those elements are portrayed here.
Having gone to that church for a period of years, the fresco, or I'm not sure that's the right term, but the picture up there is a religious picture. It's dated 1907, and it has a history about it, a story that if it's exactly what it was said to be, and supposedly it is, it was an interesting story. That needs to be preserved at, in my opinion, at all cost. Covered up if it needs to be, because it is a religious picture. And if it's not needed to be exposed for the people that are meeting in it, if we get to that point, needs to be preserved and saved. I think
that is the intention, is that it will be preserved and restored.
Add a little information on that. I have had, I checked the area. I found two art restoration people within 200 miles of here. I had one come in from Cincinnati. He has been there. He has looked at the painting. He's actually done some, sampling with the painting, and was assured he could actually lighten it up and remove, 100 years of candles or whatever. We've got him. He's just been on hold till we get, the thing. So our idea there would be to restore that painting. It's like you say, it's a historic painting, and it means a lot to people who have been part of that community, but also have some, I guess, adjustable curtain circumstance in front of it. So if a group is going to be in there that doesn't feel that's exactly appropriate for their meeting, it can be easily,
drawn with the drapes.
Curtain could be drawn otherwise, but we do have an art restoration expert from Cincinnati on the retainer.
And even when the church was using it, there were times when that was drawn or closed. The other part where the choir loft used to be, which is as you're facing the back or facing, you know what I'm saying, where you've got a step up there. And I think you said that can be leveled out so that we have a consistent level floor straight through there into the storage room where the tables and chairs can be stored.
That's correct.
That can be done, no problem.
So we've got a structural engineer who's going to work with us to rework those joists in the beam in the basement.
And that's what I thought. The other thing is, as we're looking at this, we're looking from what I'll call up at the pulpit area out towards Jefferson Street in all of the pictures. Are there any renderings of what you're planning on doing, number one, if you turn around and look toward the pulpit? Yes.
Sir, we've not prepared any renderings looking at that view. The plan right now is to leave the existing stage that's right up against the mural and protect the mural, but the rest of the character will stay as is, but with these finishes.
Now, the cost that we're looking at to do this, Does that include all the finished costs into the closet and all of that area that we're not looking at in this picture? Or is there an additional cost that'll go above this?
The work in the closet has already been performed. So this includes everything that would get the rest of this, the old sanctuary, caught up with the rest of the building that was just renovated.
Yes. So there's a door going into the, I don't know what you call it.
Room, yes, sir.
But there's also a door going into
the vestibule.
Yes. Yeah. All of that is updated, and that's all part of this cost anticipated.
So that part's already completed, and this will take care of everything that has not been refreshed up to this date.
Haven't been over. Has that been done in that area? Has that all been?
The vestibule and the restrooms and the storage are all done at this point.
Got it. But has the other part? There's what I'm calling the pulpit. There was an area in there that, and that's maybe where I need to go with the picture. Have yes, at what I'm going to call at the top of the picture where you have your dotted lines and the dotted line going across. I believe that's where your raised pulpit area is. Is that correct? The dotted lines. You have the back where you have the vestibule, the butler's kitchen or pantry, whatever you want to call it.
Area is already completed.
Yes.
And the only part is from this doorway and the stage across. This door already exists and is ready. So you can see the dash line where that raised area is that we're going to lower. And then we'll be renovating everything from this. This is the old masonry wall of the old church.
Yes.
So everything south on the page will be renovated as part of this project and is included in that cost.
And all of this. Okay, thank you.
I would like to add, and Melissa will maybe have to refresh my memory. The head trust earlier gave us, I asked them to support the lighting the windows. I've felt, driving by at night, like tonight, if those windows were lit up from the inside beautifully, that would be a beautiful addition to our downtown community. Way back when we got going on this, John Stewart said, "Oh, I can light those windows up. I light up casino windows at night." So I asked the head trust, and they gave us either $16,000 or $20,000 toward that. Now they have been so generous with us that we can't keep track of the checks, but they did support lighting those windows. If we go forward here. So,
can I ask one more since I'm on a roll, if you don't mind? As you look at this, I assume from our parking lot, which is not on here, from our parking lot into the building, which I'll also was the rear of the church, I assume that will be the main entrance into this building. Is that true or false?
Most of the public, the entrance from the fiscal court parking lot will be the main entrance. The existing handicap ramp uses the original front door of the church to come in, and that will remain also. So handicap access will be through the front doors.
Be all of the handicap access, at least there in the front. You'll have that there. Then the steps will be in from the back. Okay. That I just got to say it. That vestibule coming in with all the remodeling we did there, we really narrowed the size of that.
Yes, sir. It's a
insight looking backwards because that used to be real open, and that will be the main entrance because that's where the parking lot is. Yeah. I think I'm going to quit. Thank you.
Imagine Hounds.
About the IT assets that are in that building now that are on the wall past where your dotted lines are.
Understanding is that they will have to be shifted back to the new IT room that's been created for that.
In the cost that you provided, does that include the refurbishment of the painting?
I don't believe it does. I think that the judge has spoken to that restoration artist independently.
And what about the front doors of the building?
At the last building committee meeting, we were asked to consider a projected roof that would protect the door from the weathering, and we've got that included. When we reviewed the budget, we felt like it could be stretched to accommodate that request also.
Thank you.
Manager Woosley.
Edney, I think you've done a wonderful job with this building. It has been part of downtown since 1882. It's been a part of my history. Later on this evening, we're going to celebrate a veteran who is 105 years old. This building was there 35 years before he was even born, and it's something that we need to protect. I can respect Magistrate Greenwell's concern, but I think when you have a building of this magnitude with this much history in downtown LaGrange, it's our responsibility to protect it. So I'm going to support this today because I believe that's our responsibility. Thank you.
Manager Likens.
Judge, how many people will this accommodate and comfortably in this setting?
Apologize, I did not look that up before I came. We've run those numbers and we sized the restrooms based on those numbers. I want to say that we're close to 200.
Well, I mean, when we go into our little conference room, and I call it little, with a closed session with the people that's up here right now, it's full. So that's about all we have to go to at this point, and I call it the empty closet syndrome. Have you ever seen an empty closet? Have you ever seen a building that wasn't really utilized or used? It's either going to sit there unrenovated and be an empty building, or it's going to be renovated and used. I know that people voted against the John Black Civic Center 25 years ago, and we all look at that now like, wow, we couldn't do without it. So I fully support this project.
Magistrate Logston.
Yes, Judge. I brought this out of committee because I wanted to hear what people's opinion was. And to be honest with you, I probably was not. I was leaning more not voting for it at that time. But I've had a few hours to think about it. And I really truly believe that we could turn this into a nice meeting spot for the community. Just like Magistrate Woosley said, it is a piece of history. It's a piece of Oldham County. It's one of the oldest buildings, I guess, in this area. It might not be one of the oldest, but it's pretty old. And I think that you could turn this in back before pre-COVID in 2019, 2018. We went and visited a church there in downtown Frankfort after the legislative day, and they had something similar to this. I do believe that you could fill this up with venues. There's a lot of places, or one main place in LaGrange. Don't want to name it, but I think the reason why it sits idle a lot is because you can't have liquor. And I think this would be a great venue for weddings, where people would want to come have a little bit fancier place, have the nice stained glass windows. I just think you could turn this into a nice venue for places to have weddings and just upscale meetings, in my opinion. So I think I have changed my mind on this. I think I will vote for it today.
Thank you. Commissioner Hawkins.
This corner right here, is that the, no, go down, down, down. It's like an L. Is that the closet where, yep, right there, where things will be stored?
And that's the storage closet.
And that, I'm just thinking logistically, that doesn't look like it would be able to, you'd be able to swing folded tables into there, or is it bigger than it looks?
We did look at the size of the traditional carrel for tables and chairs, and it will make the swing.
Make the swing, okay. Yeah, I know you roll them, but they're long, generally. And then that rectangle where the painting is, that is up a couple of steps. Can you, I know you talked about it. What is going on with that? Not the painting, but the stage.
Left as is, ma'am. And I believe that the thought is if an event is going to happen where you want a raised dais, that you would just have one brought in. But we are not planning to build a new stage on this right now.
Leave it raised right there?
Leave it as is because it's part of that fabric that holds that mural.
But the mural doesn't go all the way down to the floor, does it?
It doesn't. But the way that the building is constructed, tearing that down exposes part of the old stone foundation. And we just felt like it had enough character to stand on its own, more as a, in a lot of the old basilicas, you'd have the niches and the different elements with built-in statuaries. It could just be a framework for the art, as opposed to tearing down that stage to try to get back an extra, 30 square feet.
And this facility does not have a kitchen, is that correct?
Correct. When the renovation was done, a catering room was provided. So it has a sink, it has room for a refrigerator, and it has cabinet space. But it does not have a serving kitchen because of the requirements and the issues with a hood and fire suppression. We decided not to go that direction.
Okay. And that catering room is itty bitty.
Prepare the food off-site and bring it out of that room.
Seem more like maybe a local county meeting place rather than a place for really anything else.
Intended function, yes, ma'am. That was described initially. It is primarily focused on the fiscal court's needs.
So, maybe I'll try to look at it more of a renovation of a county-owned property rather than an event space for the public.
And that's correct. The addition that was put on to the facility, that's the maximum that we could put on without encroaching on the PVA building. So we're shoehorning everything we can into a small space.
And I know you talked to Magistrate Tice about this. Is it all ADA compliant? The bathrooms now are ADA compliant?
And they are.
Okay, and the doorways into the catering room and into the closet are all ADA? Okay. So you could park in the parking lot, wheel over to the true front, and then come in that way.
And there's also those parking spaces right in front of PVA that perhaps, since the fiscal court has control over those, if it was felt that additional ADA towards the front was needed, perhaps that could be provided there.
Thank you very much.
Measure Tice.
Can I ask one further question? The stained glass in the windows, what's there will stay, or are you planning on changing that?
Will stay, sir.
If you recall, maybe 3 years ago or so, we brought a group in here from Illinois to repair and upgrade, protect all of the stained glass windows because being an asset of the county, we didn't want them to deteriorate.
Exactly right. I think time has slipped by a little faster than what you. It's more like 5 or 6 years.
It's been that long ago.
Yeah, it has, I think. And we put up a true protective glass rather than plexiglass that was up there that didn't show the beauty of the stained glass. So now that Methodist church, which is our church, being the county's facility, matches the clearness of the Haven Baptist Church a block and a half away. So those two facilities have got clear stained glass. Look very nice. Yeah. And our steeple was redone also.
Right. That might have been 7 or 8 years ago. We took out an unbelievable amount of bird contamination
Lord.
From the steeple. And we have the bell from the steeple. Rodney has that. We have that. And that can be displayed on the interior. And, we've saved that bell. So we have that too.
One other thing about the building is that the outdoor wood trim, carport, that all needs to be wrapped. We haven't done that. We either need to paint that or wrap that. That has no bearing on this, but to protect the property that needs to be done.
Right. Hey, I don't see, but man should die.
I have several questions for you. I didn't see this until today. It must came in. Some things came in late. And I understand that, so I'm not complaining about that. But I do remember seeing some of this some time back. So I got some questions since you're here and John's here. And so, first off, are you doing anything that we're not seeing here on the outside of the building?
No, sir, we're not addressing the exterior other than offering some protection at the front door because it's weathering too fast and maintenance is having trouble keeping up with the rot on that door.
Steps.
Now we don't have any exterior elements in the design.
Include nothing to be done around. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to see how much price creep we're going to have here. Nothing that you know to be done around the windows or the roof or.
Our tasking was to renovate the interior only.
Okay, so you really don't know if the roof is good or bad or indifferent. You don't know, I should say.
At this point, I have not been notified of any roof leaks in the space.
On the steps, that they're a bit in distress. Some of the things it was, as y'all been talking, that's why I waited till last. See some of the stuff here. Probably would have made it simpler for a man of my ability that like to put the word storage in some of these blocks, or stage, or whatever the religious term is for the what'd you call that?
Pulpit.
Pulpit, yeah. Okay. I would know those things if I saw them, but I can't see what you're talking about there, about the dotted lines and all of that. So that concerned me about. What and this picture, this painting, you're talking about it. Somebody said, might have been you, said if someone rents this facility for and I'm going to put words in one of the managers' mouth, was that some places are not doing as well as they could because they don't allow the selling of liquor. Can we allow the selling of liquor, even though we use like what they call a mobile person has a mobile liquor license? Can we do that in a county building?
Yeah, we do it now at the community center.
I didn't.
The caterer holds the liquor license.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So that covers the. What about fire protection? Is this going to be sprinkled?
The building is well under the limit that requires sprinkling, so we'll not be adding fire suppression to the building.
Thinking about we keep hearing about it. It's an old building, got all this value and everything to the community and to people that are familiar with it. I'm not from LaGrange, so I don't see it the same way. But wouldn't fire protection be a way to protect this building? Because if it catches on fire, then it's going to be a loss. And there won't be anything there then, and it'll be hard to put back. So that's something else I was saying. I did look at, on your picture there, you had the dining room set up, but I didn't see anything. You all are putting together an AV system, I'm sure, because you said something about training, or like we could have had the retirement function here and could have had like little videos like the judge had down at the John Black Center. We could have showed that room. If they're going to were these monitors, televisions, drop screens, whatever you plan on, or not you, but whatever's thinking about, that's not shown here. So I don't see, if I came in and said, where'd all that come from? I'm being, unprepared for that. And you said having some sort of a screen over this portrait. None of that stuff is in here, right?
No, sir, there's no AV system included in this budget.
Creep that I'm talking about. Because that's what concerns me. The building has iconic interest and value to people. I get that, but I don't think this $500,000 figure. I don't think it's a figure it's going to be coming in at. I do know John he does a lot of work for other kind of customers, and I know he's well versed in what I'm getting at here.
John Stewart with Encompass. They're in the budget. I did build the budget. I'm not trying to trump Joshua, but in that we do have $18,000 for a sound system. We have a couple of TVs for $4,400, and then in the electrical we included some wiring for those items.
The functional system, would decide how many, someone would decide how many of this or that we need where.
I think there just needs further discussion on what that need is and how we would provide that. But there is
This curtain hiding this portrait from somebody that might find it distasteful for whatever reason.
actually there are a line item. There's a line item in here for special finishes that I included. That was for. I'm sorry, I'm reading it on my phone, but it was $4,600 for things like that we had talked about with the judge.
So I looked at the budget and I tried to equate some of the things in the budget with some of my questions, and I couldn't make a match up.
Terminology sometimes is different for that kind of thing. So
we talk together. I'm on A and you're on B. I get it. I think that's all the questions I've got.
Okay.
What is the?
Sometimes you mentioned the word creep, and by that you mean things come along that and that does happen, but it's happening right in this building. We're talking about adding video conferencing in the room across the hall. It was never thought of before at some point, but life has evolved to the point where we think that would be very handy to be able to have a video conferencing system there. The health department put one in for what they have, and there's lots of other places, but the things evolve that you can't think of right at the moment, but the use of the facility, any facility, this building here has produced a need for additional things that weren't really thought of when the building was built. So that's part of the evolution of life.
But everything I've mentioned is stuff that is pretty common day to day. I'm talking about being told.
Speak in your mic. Speak in your mic. I can't hear you.
I'm everything is we're talking about what you're doing here and other places. All these things, audio, visual, screens, that's pretty much common stuff today. So that's my concern is $500,000, but in reality we should be looking at something higher. That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
This has almost a $50,000 contingency in it in this budget for things like that. There's a 10% contingency.
I think he said he's willing to
higher than that too.
Okay.
Get a chance to start referring to this as the Snake Greenwell Community Center.
Please don't.
Okay, I think we pretty well aired this out. We've got a motion and a second on the floor. I'd like to ask Tina to please call the roll.
Antron Helms.
No.
Hawkins.
Yes.
Esther Dye. Esther Tice.
Yes.
Esther Likens. Esther Woosley.
Yes.
Greenwell. No. Esther Logston.
Yes. What is that? Motion carries 6-3. All right. Thank you, Court. And we look forward to getting this project off the ground and open to the community. The next item on our agenda here today has to do with contracts and resolutions. We have some committee reports as well, and road committee recommendations here. Magistrate Greenwell.
Judge Jim Silliman's coming forward to explain about bond releases to us.
Before I get started, Magistrate Greenwell, thank you again for all your service. Since I moved into Oldham County in 2004, I've lived in your district. That's just shy the amount of time that you've been magistrate. And more directly, as staff to road committee, thank you for, is it 16 years you've been road committee chair? Yes. I've been there for the last 4, and thank you very much. Also, Mr. Carter, thank you for your advice and assistance, again, as my role in county engineer and yours as county attorney. Not yet. Never. Thank you. So the first item is the recommendation to reduce the erosion control surety for estates of Ballard Woods, Section 1. As set forth in the construction site runoff ordinance, when a subdivision is at a point where the design devices and control measures are in place and functioning, the developers allowed to reduce the erosion control surety by up to 50%. I've inspected this site and agree after inspection that the measures are in place and therefore recommend fiscal court reduce the amount of the erosion control bond from $48,300 to $24,150. The original surety was provided as a check in the amount of $48,300, so we would refund half that amount if you approve.
All right. We have a motion here from the road department.
Judge, I'll make the motion that we reduce the amount of the erosion control surety bond to $24,150. That's 50% of the amount.
All right. There's a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next.
Item is with regard to Grand Oaks, Section 4. We've inspected this subdivision for the construction and determined that the infrastructure is in place and constructed as shown on the approved drawings and in accordance with Oldham County subdivision regulations, and therefore recommend the fiscal court release the surety in the amount of $57,200. This is the performance surety, which was originally provided as a check, and release that to the developer.
All right.
Make that motion.
All right. Any discussion here? All in favor, please say aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
With the release of that performance bond, it's typical also to take these roads that were intended for public use into the county road maintenance system. So I would request that the fiscal court take Grand Oaks Drive, 1,275-foot portion, and Oak Run Court, which is just over 1,001 feet long, into the Oldham County road maintenance system.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Magistrate Dye.
Are these roads? I'm not familiar with those particular. I'm familiar with the names of the roads, but not exactly where they're at. Are these part of roads of a subdivision that's just currently finished?
One more section under construction, Section 5.
The way you said it a minute ago, it led me to believe it might have been something else. Okay, thank you.
Magistrate Hawkins.
I know exactly where this is located. Is there anything that you all do from your department to make sure that the neighbors aren't getting flooded as a result of the fifth section getting ready to start?
Part of the construction plan review process and our Oldham County stormwater runoff ordinance, we review the stormwater detention measures and calculations, and they should always be designed so that they don't release more than the current stormwater runoff. And there's a calculation process that we review to assess the 2, 10, and 100-year storms.
Motion on this?
You already did, I think.
Huh? All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. Let me back up just a second. Which motions did I didn't realize Magistrate Tice had left. Was he here for all the motions?
The 1, 2, and 3. He was gone for the first 3.
He did. All right. Great. All right, Jim, continue.
Next item is with regard to reserves of Deerfield, Section 2, a residential subdivision. The developer actually originally came in requesting an inspection for release of this bond. After our inspection, we determined that there were a few items that still needed to be completed before we could release the bond. So they requested a reduction. similar to before with the Oldham County runoff control ordinance, we're allowed to release up to 50%. That amount would be plenty to cover the remaining improvements they require. So I'm requesting that this bond be reduced by 50%. The original amount was $123,300. That would result in $61,650 bond. And we would have them provide that bond before we released the original bond.
Judge, I'll make that motion, and I can't remember the amount because my computer's died, but I'll make that motion.
All right. I second it.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. I think we got one more, don't we?
Item that's correct, thank you, is the same subdivision, Section 2, reserves of Deerfields, and this is with regards to the performance bond. Similarly, the developer requested a release. There were a few items remaining, so we couldn't release the bond, but they requested a reduction of 90%. That is sufficient. The 10% that would be left is sufficient, I think, to cover what work would have to be done. They're actually in the process of completing that. So this would reduce the original bond, which is in the amount of $129,325 to $12,902.50.
I'll make that motion, Judge.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Hawkins.
A clock now that we've released, or we're getting ready to release 90% of that bond.
Again, we won't release the 90% until we receive the new bond in the reduced amount. And then it's up to
Releasing 10% then.
We're releasing 90%. We're going to get a bond for 10% that amount, and then we'll release the original.
The clock now to complete everything?
No, not necessarily, but as they have to pay a premium to renew these bonds, so it's to their benefit to get the work done and get the bond released.
Mr. Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. Stephanie, I tried to talk him into just doing 80%, but he said, seriously, that $12,000 is enough to cover anything in case we had to. Yeah.
All right, we got a motion on the second here. All in favor, please say aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, thank you, Jim. Next item is we have a couple more things left before we wind up. We got some personnel items here. We have a new hire at the police department. That's Amanda Miller, telecommunicator 2, part-time, $25 an hour, effective today. Or dispatch, I'm sorry. Dispatch today. Motion to hire Amanda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Police Department, new hire, Joshua Whitmer, 5-year lateral police officer, $26.06 base salary, effective the 1st of January. Motion on that.
Moved.
Okay. Any questions? Did you have a question?
Where does he come from? He's a lateral from where?
Frankfurt.
Okay.
Right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now, board appointments. I'd like to make the reappointment here, first of all, to the Ambulance Taxing District Board. Reappoint Steve Turover for a term that would expire on October 16th, 2025. Also, I'd like to reappoint Kevin Nuss for a term to expire on November 20th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion. Okay. 1 no. All right. Motion carries 8-1. Extension District Board, reappoint Sam Finney for a term to go to December 31st, 2025, and Gene Jenkins to a term that would go to December 31st, 2025 as well. Motion. I'll make that motion. Is there a second? Discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're up to our second public comment, and I'm going to ask Jay, who is behind the curtain here, so to speak, actually in the closet, if he'd get ready to run the video of Mr. Herod. I think Magistrate Hounds has a comment or two he'd like to make about it.
No comment, Judge. I saw this on the other day and asked Jay if we could show this, and so we'll think we're queued up. And if I follow directions right, we're going to see what happens.
Christmas, a World War II veteran is asking for a special gift.
The 105-year-old
Picture looks fine
would
here,
like
but
you
can't
to
hear
send
anything.
him a Christmas card.
Boston.
The week before Christmas,
And then you went to England? Yeah.
Horace Herod Sr. spends some quality time with his boys. Just one glance at his living room and you know family is everything to him. At 105 years old, Horace has some stories to tell.
We just took all kinds of basic training.
Stories of when he served in World War II, nearly 80 years ago.
We landed on Normandy Beach.
The 28th Infantry Division landed there about a week after D-Day and was credited with the liberation of Paris.
Although they never fired a shot, according to my dad, he said they marched them up and down the streets of Paris just to let the Parisians see that the Americans were there.
They was fighting when we went in.
The division went through Belgium, Luxembourg, and was one of the first into Germany, fighting in what's known as the Battle of Schmidt.
We went into Smith, and we didn't have no trouble. By the time we got into Smith, they was giving up. They're just as fast as we could handle them, and we was capturing the Germans. How did you get out of Smith? Run, walked, and crawled.
And although they can laugh about it together now, his son knows what his service really means.
How many people have the ability to enjoy their dad for this long? And he's just been a treasure. He's a hero to us.
At 105, Horace can't get out much anymore.
Have a magical holiday. Love you, Paula.
But he has been enjoying getting Christmas cards.
Pretty soon there won't be any World War II vets still around, so it means a lot to know that people still remember them and think about them, and it's just fun for a stranger to read a card to my dad, them thanking him for his service.
And he would like more.
Merry Christmas, love, Sissy and Richie.
So when you're sending out cards this holiday season, think of sending just one more to our World War II hero, Horace.
What would you like for Christmas this year? What would I like? Yeah. Oh, just anything good to eat.
And you can send a card right to Horace. We do have his address on our website. It's there right now. That's WDRB.com.
Well, we certainly wish Mr. Herod very happy 105th birthday. I probably don't many of us know anybody else that's that age, and it's really a tribute. And he's raised a wonderful family, and they're all very much credited to him. So, happy birthday. I'd like to recognize Rich Ornstein. He doesn't know he's going to be recognized, but Rich, come on up for a second. Rich is our legal advisor from the Kentucky Association of Counties, and honestly, Rich, when I run into something, generally call John Carter right away, and if he's not there, I dial your number, and you're on my speed dial, so I'll let you take me.
Appreciate the recognition, Judge. As you know, I've been doing this 25 years. I don't necessarily always come to a lot of fiscal court meetings, but I've known Steve Greenwell for an awful long time, and so I wanted to come by here and see his last court meeting, and to be honest, see how it's done. Sometimes it's nice to get a little refresher, and you all definitely do fiscal court right. So thank you very much. I appreciate being here.
Well, thank you, Rich, for being here. We appreciate you, and I've been on a trip or two with Rich, and Mr. Herod mentioned about getting something good to eat. Rich and I sometimes compete on what the good dessert might be, so we're...
Take my dessert, Judge.
Yeah, if he looked the other way, I'd eat his dessert. Yeah. Thank you for coming, Rich, and I know Steve very much appreciates you coming as well as his family. We're pretty much at the end of today's last meeting, so we'll see if some magistrates would like some final comments, and I'm going to go through the magistrates, and I'm going to I could allow certainly invite Magistrate Greenwell to be first or last, but I'm going to give him the last word here today. So, Magistrate Likens.
Judge, Merry Christmas to everybody here. I want the audience to know that Horace Herod, the son of the guy that was just up there, was the guy talking about the Harmony Lake and closing down Osea at our meeting an hour ago. So he left, but I did not know his father was still around. How great that is. So thank you. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas to you. Magistrate Tice.
I just want to say congratulations for Steve for 20 years. It's been a pleasure and enjoyed it. So,
Magistrate Woosley.
I want to just wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I also want to say God bless folks like Horace Herod that served our country so well as he did so many years ago. And lastly, before I get too emotional, I've known Steve for a really long time. I've dealt with him when I was on the school board, and when I got appointed here a year and a half ago, he was one of those first folks I would lean on and still occasionally reach over and ask him questions during the meeting. And it's going to be hard to replace you, and I'm going to miss you. I wish you well.
Magistrate Hounds.
Thank you, Judge. I saw that news article about Horace Herod Sr., and I thought that would just be something really neat to make sure that everybody saw. And congratulations to Horace Herod Sr. Can't even imagine what he's seen in his lifetime. And his son, Horace Herod, I got introduced to Horace when we were doing the transfer from Osea to MSD. And I remember at the time Mayor Dibble said, well, call Horace, he'll fill you in. In about 30 minutes, I learned more about sewer systems and the problems that we had than I care to know. But Horace has been definitely an asset to the Osea. Just item two about the food drive that we did at Oldham County, the employees did, and the fiscal court, very, very successful. My son and I went to Costco on Sunday, and I have literally had a pocket full of cash to buy peanut butter, and went to High Point today, and they said, well, how much do you have? And I said, I've got, I think it was 28 jars. And since going to Costco on Sunday, and since today, I've also gotten more money, cash given to me. So I guess I want to make another trip to Costco, because apparently peanut butter is one of the most sought after items for the food pantries, which is great. Just a quick update. I know a lot of people know Jerry Nart, who's our EMA director. Jerry's recovering from a surgery that he had. I'm happy to say he's doing well. I talk to him on an irregular basis, and he said, well, what's going on here? I'm like, what do you care? You're on sick leave. Don't worry about it. You know, when you come back, you can get filled in. And thank you to Mr. Carter for your years of service to Oldham County. I didn't know John until I got this position 6 years ago, and those of you that know John, he has a very dry sense of humor about things and is very to the point about things, in which I greatly appreciate that. Steve Greenwell, there were two people that I told people that I wanted to talk to when I got this job. And one of them was Bob Dibble, and I've known Bob since I was very small and had great respect for him. And the other one was Steve Greenwell, because as far as fiscal court goes, no offense to anybody that's on it, but everybody knew Steve Greenwell of fiscal court. Everybody did. If you asked a person who was on fiscal court, the first name I always got was Steve Greenwell. And for 20 years, Steve, you've been that person, and I appreciate your leadership. And when I've called to ask questions about stuff, when I first became a magistrate, I called Steve about an issue, and he said the answer is no. And I said, do you want to elaborate? And he said, I don't have time. I'll tell you later. And I went, okay, I guess the answer is no. We'll move on. But I do appreciate your leadership, Steve, and Oldham County does too. Thank you.
Magistrate Hawkins.
The three things I'm going to miss most about Magistrate Greenwell is his vast Oldham County history knowledge that tends to come up just when we need it to come up here on court. And second are his words of wisdom, including the stories of how he got his Christmas trees off the highway as a child. And the third is his level-headed voice of reason, which also seems to come at just the right time here on fiscal court. So I'm going to miss that a whole lot with Magistrate Greenwell. And then Mr. Carter, the best thing I can say about Mr. Carter right now is when I need somebody to say I'm not wrong, Mr. Carter's there. How many times have I gone up to you and said, am I wrong on this? And you go, no, you're right on this. And I'm okay. And I'm in a hurry and he's in a hurry, but that's just kind of what I needed to hear in the moment is just a little bit of wisdom from Mr. Carter. So I'm going to miss both of you guys a whole lot. And thank you for your service.
Magistrate Dye. There's a lot of names here. I'll start with Horace. I met Horace and I got involved with the judge. You remember this going to Frankfurt to get the money for the sewer plant. I got that 30-minute conversation, Chris. I learned more about, of course, 5 of the bad plans from my district. Horace's leadership, and this goes with everybody I want to mention, it wouldn't have been as successful as it was to getting the system close to where it should have been, and then of course the sale to MSD, which I still say was the smartest thing we could have ever done. I want to thank Steve Sparrow for the years as sheriff. I hope that the new sheriff has got big shoes to fill. Amy Alvey, she came out of the box strong with the clerk's office with the budget. I think this is the first time we ever did it. Actually got it done the year before it was really due. No reflection on Julie Barr. I hope she enjoys her retirement. Mr. Carter. I've known Mr. Carter when he was a judge in Jefferson County. And if you were at the thing the other day, the luncheon, you got to see Mr. Carter and his, let's see, what was the guy? He had his Tom Selleck haircut and his Tom Selleck, as we used to call it back in the day, his porno mustache. So he was a good-looking guy back then. I mean, he could tell you if you ever have a chance, asking about how he made those other judges mad when he took the juveniles out of the adult jail. And remember that, John? No, they were children when you put them in there. And last but not least is, as we all know and love him, Snake Greenwell. I'm going to say the same thing again, Steve. It's probably been the last time you hear it. I've said it many times. I said, when time spent with Steve Greenwell, it's time well spent. I mean, Steve, you've always been an anchor on that end of the table, and it's been an enjoyment for me for the last 12 years. Maybe you can't echo that, but we've been through a lot of stuff together. Spent a hell of a lot of money. All right, but hey, and you and Karen, take care of him because God knows he needs it.
Magistrate Logston.
You're the last one. It's nothing but repeat. But I just want to say, wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. John, thank you for your service to the county. You've done us well, led us for 12 years. We didn't always see eye to eye, but you always told us what we needed to hear. Thank you for that. Horace, thank you for your... I've always sat there and I've always thought about Horace and how much work he's put into this county and never received a paycheck for it. It just absolutely amazes me, the grief that he took from people and all the things that he's done for. So thank you, Horace, and love your dad as long as you can. Steve, I tell you what, if anybody on here wants to watch how a committee chair should run their committee, Steve Greenwell was the one. He was right to the point. He never got out of line. He's been chair of the transportation, I guess, for 20 years. I don't know, 16 years. I don't know how long. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your service for the county. You've done us a great job. Thank you.
All right, thank you. John Carter, would you like to say anything here at the end of the line?
Yes, this is my last meeting with Fiscal Court, and I want to say that the last 12 years working with you folks and with for the citizens of Oldham County has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. And I'll say I've done a lot of things, but this is probably the most rewarding. And I want to thank you all for all your help in helping me do my job too. Thank you.
Right. John made the observation that we were both in Minnesota at the same time. John was an FBI agent in St. Paul. I was in elementary school at the time, and didn't know him, but
it gets cold in Minnesota.
That's actually not true because we're both the same age. I did see one other person. I don't know if she wants to say something or not, but our former Deputy Judge Paula Gish is here today, and Paula I know is a good friend of Steve. And don't mean to put you on the spot in any way, Paula, but I know you've come to congratulate Steve, and you're certainly welcome to say something if you'd like to, or if you want to say it after the meeting, that's fine too. Whatever is. Right. Well.
Paula. I thought maybe you might have come for the Harmony Lake discussion, but I wasn't sure.
Well, I thank John and Steve for their service. It's been a pleasure and privilege to work with both of them over the last 12 years, and you will be missed. You won't be forgotten. Your advice will always be welcome in the future, and I assume we may hear from you again, in some respects. So thank you very much for all the effort that you have put in and help, support you've provided and effort you've made to help our court be successful. So I said I'd give Steve the last word, but I'm not quite to the last word yet. Karen, are you up to saying anything? There isn't. I guarantee you, and I say this in my own home. Everybody that serves on this court, their wife serves with them. They hear all of and their husband, and they hear all of the anxiety, they hear the frustration, they hear the joy, and they hear the disappointment. And the wives are spouses keep us going, and we couldn't make it without their support. So I know that I appreciate that in my home, and I know that with Mary Lee, and I know Steve appreciates that in his home as well. So now to the last word, Steve Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. John Carter said it very well. Thanks to everybody that works for Oldham County government for helping me do my job. I ask a lot of really stupid questions, I'm sure, but they never let on, and they just answered them, and I appreciated that. Called them at late hours of the night to answer a question, and they returned my phone call if they didn't pick it up right away. So just thank you so much to the staff here. I've got also Kevin Jeffries is going to take my place, and I couldn't have picked anybody any better. He's going to fit right in, and he's a farmer, and so I appreciate that very much. And he's just very, very good at what he does. And I am a farmer, and now I guess maybe I could say I'm a farmer statesman. But that's how our country got started, and it worked out pretty well. So anyway, that has stood me in good stead. Got a lot of friends here, a lot of neighbors. I do have neighbors here, people I've known for a long time, family members. Both my sons are here with their families. Stand up. Please stand up. I got... Now my grandkids, please stand up. Lindsay and Jenny, thank you all very much for being here also. My sister Mercy and her husband Steve. Just stick your hands up, say hi, something or other. Thank you all for being here. Awful lot of good friends. I just would invite you all to come see me sometime. Vernon Hodge is here. Vernon, thank you very much. Worked for him for many, many years. He was flexible enough to let me make those 500 and some meetings, Judge. Out of it goes to him. Thank you very much. Anyway, come see Karen and I. I may still come back to work, Judge, for the county as an IT specialist. But anyway, thank you to all my serving magistrates. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, lady, for just being here and helping out and giving me good advice because I need it. Anyway, come see Karen and I. I'll show you our cows. Cows will keep you young if they don't kill you first. And I thought about this the other day, Christmas season and all. My cow's ancestors may have been the first creatures to see baby Jesus. So with that, Merry Christmas.
We have some things in the other next room over here in our large conference room. I believe there's some cake and cookies and things over there. So everybody's invited to come in there and wish Steve well if you'd like to do so.
One other thing.
Yes, sir.
The person that drove the furthest to be here today is my roommate from college. I don't dare give him the floor. No, not going to happen. Rod, stand up, please.
Magistrate Greenwell, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second. In favor, please say aye.
Aye.